Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Matt, and today we're talking about Neal Shusterman's Trilogy Arc of a Scythe. So the first book is Scythe, then we've got Thunderhead and The Toll, and these three books are set, and one of the main really big pros of this sci-fi series is the world that Neal Shusterman creates and the concept that he's built this story on. And that is that it's set sometime in the future, exactly when is unclear, but we've got to a world where humanity has conquered death. So there is no death, there's no disease, there's no illness. If you die in an accident, then you can be revived and brought back to life. It's really a kind of utopia, effectively. There's no real old age, because you can what they call turn a corner and go back to being younger. And so we have solved all the physical ailments of the world, and then we have methods that have nanites in our body that effectively help modulate our feelings, so we never have to suffer too much unless we really want to, I suppose. But it's all overseen by an AI, and what's interesting in Shusterman's approach is that the AI is a benevolent AI. There's not a dystopian world where we've got some maniacal is that a word? AI ruling over the world with an iron fist and crushing humanity, as we see in so many sci-fi future novels. This is actually a benevolent AI which is working to the benefit of humanity and really looking to make our lives the best they can possibly be, and has been quite successful at it. But within that, because no one dies, or no one dies naturally or by accident or misadventure, there has to be a solution for basically overcrowding, because people are still having children. So what we then have is we have this other independent organisation, so independent from the AI, called the Scythehood. And these are individuals plucked from humanity who are trained up to kill. They call it gleaning, and it's basically permanently killing somebody to maintain numbers. And they have various methods for doing it. They try and keep it sort of fair and reasonable, if that makes sense. But they have their methods. But what's interesting, so they're responsible for killing their quota of people, and we generally spend most of our time in what's known as mid-America, with our main two protagonists, who are young kids, teenagers, so Citra and Rowan, as they're sort of taken in to become apprentices to the Scythehood, and their training and their development and their learning of what it means to be a scythe and what it means to kill and to take life and actually permanently eradicate life, because death is not known to them. People don't die unless a scythe comes for them, and scythes are hugely respected, feared individuals in society because of this power that they have, this influence that they have. And what's interesting, what Neal Shusterman does well, is we get different views within the Scythehood of that influence, that power, that notoriety, where we have some who absolutely adore the fame, they adore the adulation, and some who are very reserved and don't want it. It's a job they have to do, they regret having to do it, they deal with the struggles of what they're doing. They understand necessity, but they struggle with the reality of it, and some thrive in it, they love it, they adore the killing. So we get different enterprises, and we get sort of the political machinations between different groups. There's two main groups within the Scythehood who try to take power over the future of the Scythedom. And that's really interesting. And the Scythedom is completely independent from the AI, so the AI has rules built into it, so it cannot interfere with Scythe actions in any way, shape or form. So that makes quite an interesting dynamic within it. So what we've got is we've got these two young individuals basically taking, in the first book, being apprentices and being trained up to be scythes, and we start to understand how the Scythedom works or doesn't work and the issues it has from the inside, and that builds and develops over the three, and the challenges we see get bigger and the issues get stronger. Now the first book, what I would say, I've raved about the positives. The negatives for me. The cons of the book is really the main one is that it's good and bad, good and evil is very black and white in the first book. There's very clearly good people, individuals, and there's very clearly bad people, and the bad people are bad to the core, and the good people are generally good, maybe a bit more nuanced, but the bad people are just bad people who do bad things because they're bad and they're evil, and that's it. So there's very little grey area in the first book, especially, which does lead to the fact that it's a young adult book, and that's probably why we have the very clear separation of good and evil. There is very little grey area within that. Now, as the trilogy progresses, there's more grey area. The good guys start doing things that maybe aren't so good. The bad guys continue to do bad things, though maybe we get some redemption in some of them, but maybe not. The future will tell. And there's twists and there's turns, and there's some good climatic endings. There's some good action, but really it's about the focus. And for me, that I gather, it was that fantastic concept that Neal Shusterman has and the way he executes it. He's very good at driving a plot and linking things together as we get towards the end. The things that have happened in, or you become aware of in the first book, do tie up in the third book. So that is quite a skill to make sure that the trilogy works as a whole, and we build into it. The other thing that was probably a con for me was the relationship between Scythe and Rowan felt a bit forced and a little bit unnecessary, but it's something that Neal Shusterman uses, and there's and it flows through the books. But it is the benevolent AI is fascinating and becomes a character later in the books as well, which is a really interesting viewpoint. I like in the first book, we get at the end of each chapter, we get a little anecdote or a diary entry, because the Scythes have to keep diaries of all their actions, which are publicly available, of their lives, and we get a little diary excerpt from different Scythes from the past, especially on their view of what the Scythedom is and where it should be going, etc., etc. So it's really quite well thought out. It's really entertaining. The thought process into this future world is fascinating, and I really enjoyed the way he had built this. This AI that was benevolent and trying to do the best for humanity and trying to solve problems for humanity, and also how that impacts on society and the Scythedom, and how that impacts on society and what's happening within the Scythedom itself, which is outside of the AI, so they don't have the same support network, I suppose, that the rest of society has, and the interaction between normal people and the Scythes. There's a lot going on, and it's really, really good. As I say, there's a few flaws to it. It's not perfect. I think if there was more grey, there'd be more storytelling opportunities, but he keeps it very black and white, especially the first. But it does get greyer as we move on, and we realise that the good people are only human, and the bad people, to be honest, stay generally just bad people, but there are a few exceptions. So yeah, is it worth your time? I think so. It's a good, entertaining read. It's a finished trilogy, which is always nice to pick something up that is already complete and you can read all three and fly through them. Is it flawless? No, it's not flawless, but it's a good, entertaining read. It's got some fantastic ideas. The characters are good and generally develop well, as I say, other than being very black and white. So if you enjoyed that, if you're interested in reading the book or the books in this trilogy, please do let me know in the comments down below. If you've read it, what did you think of it? What were your pros and cons, if any, of either? And please do otherwise like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.